Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My name is Li Hagan. Today, my guest is Robert Landau. He is the new Executive Director for the Hawaii Association Independent Schools. So Robert, welcome to my show, and it's great to have you here. I'm glad I had a chance to chat with you before the show. Well, I guess the first question, what is HAIS? Tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. We are the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. We have approximately 93 member schools. Those schools are licensed by us. We're given that opportunity by the state of Hawaii to license independent schools. Many of our schools are accredited by us in association with the Western Association of Schools and Colleges.
Oh, okay.
So all across the United States, there are independent school associations for every state or group of states, and we are one of those associations.
That's pretty amazing. You know, of course, when I think about independent schools, I can think of the ones that are really, really well known. 93 members. So what kind of schools, do we really have 93 private schools here in our state?
Actually, there are more.
Oh, okay.
There are more. Some are not members, and some, unfortunately, over the last few years have not been able to continue because of, for whatever reason. I'm not 100% sure because I'm new to the association. But you know, I just came back from Maui. And I spent 4 days visiting 11 of our schools.
Wow.
And it really hit home for me, the vast variety of the schools that we serve. So yes, it's very true. I've just moved from Singapore, and when I said I was moving to Hawaii, I kept hearing the names of 1 or 2 schools.
Right.
And you know the names of those schools.
And I'm sure we can talk about
And
that.
there's Punahou, Iolani, and so on. But having now been here for several months and visited more than those 2 schools, I'm just impressed by the variety of schools, every shape and size, catering to kids, but with different missions, different visions, different focus. It's the same thing, you know, if you find the right fit school for your child.
Of course, and I'm glad that we have the options here. Now, earlier on you mentioned that you actually license them to be independent school. Can you tell us briefly what that entails? I didn't even think about that there has to be some kind of accreditation process, right?
Well, you know, the basic is the license. Like any other organization or business, if you're offering a service like education, you need to meet minimum standards. And in order for you to operate as an independent school in the state of Hawaii, you need to be licensed. There are a vast number of our schools that decide to go to the next level, which is accreditation. And you know, certainly if you're a pre-kindergarten through 12th grade school and you're graduating seniors in high school that are going on to university, being an accredited school is valuable. And many schools, colleges, universities across the United States are looking for students coming from accredited schools. If you happen to be a preschool or you may only go to 6th grade or 8th grade, you may not think that you need the accreditation. Personally, I think every school should be accredited because it holds you to very, very clear standards, and the school does a lot of reflection around those standards throughout the process. But licensing means that you're meeting minimum standards, important standards to operate as a school. And if you want to go deeper into those standards, you become accredited.
This is interesting. I actually had a conversation yesterday with another organization that provide, executive programs, not necessarily for youngsters, but we had that conversation too, and I asked actually a very ignorant question. I said, why do you need to have all these reflections, self-assessment? But it's exactly what you said. There are standards and there are processes that they need to follow. Now, I'm trying to hold back not to ask you all these questions about your background, but you mentioned it, of course, before you came here.
I like my background.
No, I love it too, but I'm hoping that I can move it towards a second segment. But
sure.
No, let's launch into this then. Of course, before you took on this position, you were the deputy superintendent at the Singapore International School. I guess tell us a little bit about your international background. I know this probably would last for the rest of the show.
It might, but I know how to give you the quick version.
Okay.
But it did start with saying goodbye to my mother on the back porch of our home and saying I'd be back in a year. And that was 40 years ago.
Okay, and you grew up in Los Angeles.
Grew up in Los Angeles, certified as a teacher in the state of California. Not a great time to get teaching jobs in the mid-'70s.
Okay.
So I went back to Switzerland where I had spent the 2 previous summers as a camp counselor. And then I ended up over the last 40 years living in Switzerland for 22 years. And then Indonesia. I did return to California for 9 months where I'm the founding director of the International School of Monterey, which is an international charter school in Monterey, California.
Oh,
But then 9 years in the Czech Republic, 3 years in Beijing, 2 years in Phnom Penh, Cambodia, and recently Singapore American School, which is probably the largest American school outside the US, 4,000 students.
4,000 students.
Yes.
Well, maybe I can ask our producer to show some of the pictures. I think there are some pictures of Robert with a lot of the international students at your different point in your career. Tell us about the Singapore assignment. And then I guess, of course, my question after that would be, why did you decide to come here? But yeah, let's go to the Singapore question.
You know, the picture that's showing right now, I'm going to make a quick plug for my Cambodia experience.
Okay.
Because you're seeing me with my wonderful assistant, Navin, with a group of Cambodian students.
Okay.
I had the great opportunity of traveling 4,000 kilometers around Cambodia, and we screened over 12,000 students in 61 government schools. To find 50 disadvantaged economically students who had great potential. And the benefactor from the Liger Learning Center, Liger Charitable Foundation, has provided an exceptional educational opportunity for these 50 students. So that changed my life. To be able to understand that just because you're economically disadvantaged does not mean that you lack any potential to become a successful student. These kids are now publishing books. They've competed in international robotics competitions, and that's just in 3 years.
So when you say screening means you actually had to go out to look for these 50...
Yes, very difficult to say no, but we were tasked with finding 50. And
why 50? Why?
Because that's what the benefactor could afford at this point. But they're actually adding 50 more students this year.
Wow.
And these kids are phenomenal. So I kind of went from day to night. I went from working with these amazing students in Cambodia to 4,000 students in a country like Singapore, which is quite a successful country economically and otherwise.
Can I ask you a few more questions about your experience in Cambodia?
Yes.
How did you end up there then?
I answered an email.
Oh.
You know, I had been working in international schools for so long, sending students off to do community service, supporting foundations and fundraising. And I never really experienced myself until after the 2008 earthquake in Sichuan in China. And the school I was running at the time, we rebuilt a school in Gansu province. And to this day, the school is still sending, I say we because I feel a part of it, the school is still sending students on a 17-hour train ride back to that school we rebuilt to keep working with the students.
Okay.
So when I got this email, it was looking for an education director for Liger Charitable Foundation. The idea is I would start these educational centers all around Southeast Asia, and I was intrigued. So I dragged my poor family from Beijing to Cambodia, and it was just an opportunity of a lifetime to be able to kind of prove that point that I had been thinking about. It's frustrating, though, Alice, because there's so many children in the world that have the same capabilities as as other students who have the resources,
Right.
and yet they don't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
It so motivated me that when I did move to Cambodia, I found some like-minded people and started my own foundation,
That's fantastic.
which is called Cambodia's Future Foundation, and we're operating at this moment in Cambodia.
Oh, so you are still involved in a lot of the education programs in Cambodia?
I
then?
am.
Wow.
Yes, once you're there, and you in any developing country, and I chose Cambodia. There are many other countries in need of our help, but I love Cambodia, the Cambodian people, and that's where I invest not just my money. People invest money, they donate money, they give money, but I think everyone should also think about investing and donating time as well.
Of course.
So I will be going back a minimum of once a year.
Oh, really?
Just to see our kids and to see what they're doing. We're going to finance their college education, and they're in their last year of high school.
Wow, that's great. So is that part of your responsibility at HAIS, or this is in addition to what you do?
It's in
here?
addition, and I spoke about that when I was interviewing, and when we talk a little bit later about some of our new programs at HAIS, you'll see how the two are synced.
Oh, that's great. I think this is a great time to take a break, but I think when we come back, I'd like to show that video clip of your Cambodia Future Foundation.
Thank you.
And of course, I probably would continue to ask you about those international questions because that's really, really intriguing.
Good, and how HIS has an opportunity to become more international, and how that links to programs like Study Hawaii in bringing students to Hawaii, and Hawaii students traveling abroad.
Well, we've got our agenda set for the next two segments.
Great.
My guest today is Robert Landau, Executive Director for the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, Jay.
Hi, Keith.
My name's Keith Bettinger.
I knew that.
And I'm the host of ThinkTech Asia.
I knew that too.
Here on ThinkTech.
Fabulous. You got a great show going, Keith.
Thank you very much. And for our viewers out there that are interested in ThinkTech Asia, it airs every Tuesday from 4 to 4:45, and it can be accessed online at thinktech.com.
Yeah, so what kind of guests you like?
Well, we have a number of guests from academia, from practitioners of international affairs. Sometimes we have military officials. Sometimes we have public officials on the show. And our goal, we try to talk about current issues in South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, and Central Asia, all throughout the Asian realm in more depth than you would find in traditional mainstream
That's the
media.
difference, isn't it?
Exactly.
That you're reaching out beyond what ordinary news media would do.
Right.
That's why we like you so much.
We're trying to provide a thinking person's perspective, an intelligent perspective on what's going on, and we're both sides of the story, or even when there's more than two sides, we try to cover every angle. And I think that's one of the big benefits that we provide here at ThinkTech. Is it's a really innovative source of educational programming for the people of Hawaii.
You're great, Keith. You are a great host. You got a great show going on. I watch it every week.
Thanks very much.
Why don't
Jay.
you guys watch it every week too, okay?
4:45 to 4 to 4:45 every Tuesday.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. If you're just joining us, my guest today is Robert Landau, Executive Director of the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. Before the break, we were talking about his international experience, specifically the work that he was doing in Cambodia. So with that, I would like to share with you a short video clip of his foundation, the Cambodia Future Foundation. So Robert, you made this video, so tell us about all the people in that video clip.
Well, you know, I explained before the break that I had worked for Liger Learning Center, and when I moved to Singapore, I missed Cambodia so much, and I missed the people. And I was having dinner with a former Cambodian colleague, and I said, you know, I would love to contribute and do something by starting a foundation. And I asked him, his name's Sabuan, what should I do? And he said, do me. He was an orphan, an economic orphan.
Okay.
He was discovered by an Australian woman who paid for his university education, and it changed his life. And what happens in developing countries like Cambodia, at around the age of 16, students begin to drop out of school because they don't have a future. They won't go to university. They don't have the funds. So we're actually identifying students in 11th grade, and we have 10 students now. And that's what we can afford, we hope. And they have to do 4 things. They have to learn English, they have to become comfortable with technology, they have to do extremely well in the Cambodian government school. But what we think most importantly, they have to identify an issue in their community and find a local solution. And so we have students who are doing recycling, tree planting. A couple of our boys started a soccer league. And we have some of our other students installing sanitation toilets in people's homes that don't have any sanitation. And next year, we hope, touch wood, that all 10 of them will be accepted to the university in Phnom Penh. We bought a house in Phnom Penh where they will be living, and that will become our headquarters and training center.
Oh, that is such a fantastic story. So you said this all comes out from your foundation. So
Yes.
how do you get the financial resources for your foundation?
Well,
then?
you're giving me an opportunity here.
Please go ahead.
Anyone who would like to help us, we still need to sponsor some of our students, and of course, we'd like to add another cohort after our first goes to university. But I'm not here to. Thank you for giving me time to talk about Cambodia's Future Foundation.
Right.
But it's a passion, and I think everyone should have a passion, and this one happens to be mine. You know, our eventual goal, and which is related to a new project that we're starting here with HAIS, is that we love our students after university to go back to their community and continue the work they started when they were in high school. You know, this is the pay it forward idea,
Right.
and we hope that when they are graduates, that they'll go back and contribute to their community.
Wow, this is fantastic. Now,
But yes, anyone who would like to help, I'd love to talk to them.
well, maybe at the end we can put up the information for the Cambodia Future Foundation again.
Okay.
Now, you came with a lot of international experience, and obviously that signals something about the independent schools here. So how do you see what you did before and integrating into what you're currently doing?
Well, first of all, and I just came back from a meeting of my peers on the mainland and talking about some of the issues in independent schools across the country. And certainly something that's happening all over the country is the influx of international students. Many independent schools are seeing an opportunity to bring international students. They may be losing some students for whatever reason, and now they are clearly marketing to international students. And that's no different here in Hawaii. We have one school, Hawaii Preparatory Academy. On the Big Island, they have over 25 nationalities in their boarding program.
Wow.
We have many schools here, Maui Preparatory Academy on Maui, going over to Vietnam and other countries, recruiting students. So this is a new phenomenon, not just in Hawaii, but across the nation. So there's an opportunity there as there is an influx of more international students. We're looking at more of a global perspective. We're looking at culture differently. We're looking at internationalism differently. We have a new colleague of mine at Le Jardin Academy, DJ Condon. We were friends overseas, and it's a full international baccalaureate school, and they want to internationalize their school. And there's many more examples of our Hawaii independent schools that see this internationalization as an opportunity. So I think the board saw my experience and the fact that we think Hawaii is really well placed geographically as a crossroads between East and West. And we would like to look at more and more opportunities to bring students to Hawaii and for some of our students to be able to have more international experience that are really meaningful.
I believe in internationalizing our schools. I think, well, I guess I came from a different part of the world, so I really appreciate the difference, the culture, and the different perspectives. But this question is often being asked, or the concern about, okay, why would an international student choose Hawaii? We are very, very good in portraying ourselves as a tourism destination. And I'm sure you've encountered that perhaps in the last few months, because we get that all the time at the university. You know, you come here to visit, to study or to do business, well, that's going to be something different. So how do you counter that? And I guess why would a high school student, why would their family send them over here to Hawaii as opposed to some other schools on the mainland?
And that's a great question. Certainly a question I would not have answered very well a couple of months ago. But in the few months I've been here, I've grown to appreciate the fact that Hawaii is actually the perfect destination.
Oh.
With
That's
the
good to hear.
Hawaiian cultural renaissance, the Hawaii-based schools, the immersion schools, the teaching of Hawaiian language in schools, a great respect for ancestry and history and tradition. This has been, for me, an easy transition because I learned the concept of talk story.
Ah, that's
And I
great.
learned that when I'm at Kamehameha School and I ask a student, so why are you here? I know that you have to have a Hawaiian connection.
Correct,
So
yes.
why are you here? And then I can just sit back and listen to these amazing stories of their ancestry. And so this is a place where international students can feel very much at home because then they can talk about their culture. And because culture, heritage, and ancestry is so important here right now, what a perfect place for students from around the world to come. And I think that the very diverse international schools I've just come from could learn a lot from the Hawaiian schools, public schools, charter schools, independent schools, because of this wonderful emerging Hawaiian cultural renaissance that's taking place here and has for many years.
Wow. There was one question I was going to ask you. Okay, let's talk about your background. When you were in Singapore, you said there are things that other schools can learn. Thinking about Singapore, no, I'm sorry. Let's talk about the challenges then. We are kind of located east and I guess, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, the challenges, because I know that at the university level, we have challenges attracting international students. So you mentioned that some of the independent schools are actively going out to recruit. So what are they doing that you could share with us and perhaps other schools could learn from?
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing about the University of Hawaii. When I think of the different high schools that I've been in, and I watch students cross the stage on graduation day, I don't recall hearing University of Hawaii mentioned very often as a point of destination, and I'm a bit confused because I think that for international students, this would be a great destination. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's many international school students who have come here. Just in my experience, I haven't seen that. And I know that a country like Singapore has a wonderful admiration and respect for the state of Hawaii. And I think there are some phenomenal students from Singaporean schools, not just international schools, who could be enticed to choose University of Hawaii or Chaminade or any of the universities here as a choice rather than a school on the mainland, especially since transportation is is maybe easier.
Right, right.
But I think, you know, I learned in a country like Singapore that you know, the students are extremely well educated, and therefore it's very competitive
Right.
when you're looking at recruiting students. But what's happening in the independent schools are a couple of things. First of all, there are independent schools that have boarding capabilities. So they're strengthening and developing their boarding business, as it were. And there you have the whole world to choose from, because
Right.
if a family chooses a boarding school, then they could be sending their child to Switzerland, for instance. We had lots of boarding schools in Switzerland.
Okay.
You could go to some of the mainland boarding schools, but now you have this incredible location to do so much experiential learning, and you have so many different kinds of geography and topography that this is a perfect location. And it's a bit more remote, which means the students have to be more of an educational focus than being distracted by bigger cities.
That's a good one, yes.
Especially if you're on the Big Island or Maui. But many of the examples here on Oahu is that the schools are looking for international students that are going to come here in a homestay situation, which offers a different experience than boarding.
Right.
And I think, you know, for a family to offer their home to an international student can be life-changing. I hear so many stories where this student has become a lifelong family friend and comes
that's
back and
fantastic.
visits, and the family visits them in their home country. So lots of opportunities. So I wouldn't like to think that these schools are doing it purely for financial reasons.
Of course
I
not.
think they're doing it because adding international students to the school changes the composition of the school and offers everyone an educational experience. And I know this is naive and we could be singing Kumbaya, but I think the more children and students understand the similarities and differences, you know, maybe we'll have more respect and tolerance when it comes time for some adult to say you need to take up arms against a child in another country, and our children are finally going to say enough is enough. You know, we want a future, and we respect people from all different nationalities.
I totally agree with what you say, and I think I can understand why you were chosen as the executive director. So
you.
this is a great time to for a break, but I think after the segment, or after the break, I'd like to ask you about, you know, your meeting on the mainland. Perhaps maybe looking at how different we are compared to some of the mainland, I guess, independent schools.
Of course, and I'd also like to talk to you about our Global Issues Network
Yes,
project.
that would be great. My guest today is Robert Landau, the Executive Director of Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, my name's Cindy Matsuki, and I host the show High Growth with HTDC on ThinkTech Hawaii. This is the show where we talk about all things tech, innovation, entrepreneurship, and manufacturing, because there's so many things going on in Hawaii and more people should know about them. So this is the program that you can come and find out about all the things happening in Hawaii. And this show also airs on Olelo 54 along with ThinkTech Hawaii. And it broadcasts live every other Tuesday at 3 p.m. So don't forget, check out the show Tuesday, 3 p.m. every other week. High Growth with HTDC. Thanks.
Welcome back to ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. If you're just joining us, my guest today is Robert Landau, Executive Director of the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. We've been talking about the international experience that he's had, bringing it to his current position at HAIS. Now, Robert, let's talk about some of the global initiatives that you are currently involved in. And I know that maybe the 15 minutes won't do you a lot of justice, but we'll try.
Well, I'll try to be brief. In 2002, a book was written called High Noon, 20 Global Problems, 20 Years to Solve Them. And that's 2002. In 2006, a new initiative was created in the international schools called the Global Issues Network. And at the same time, in the independent schools in the U.S., an initiative called Challenge 2020. The idea is that these 20 issues are going to impact our students, their future. So the first conference was held in Luxembourg in 2006, where students focus on these 20 problems and become experts, first and foremost, in what the problems are. And these problems range from poverty to education to environmental, health, social, economic
So
issues.
these students are students, high school students?
High school students.
Oh, just high school students.
Well, in many Global Issue Network schools now, there's a middle school GIN and an elementary GIN, Global Issues Network.
Okay.
So one of the first things that I decided to do to kind of impose myself here in my new job is to potentially bring Global Issues Network to Hawaii. And that we would introduce the first Global Issues Network conference to Hawaii ever.
Okay.
And I'm very happy to say that we're getting a lot of interest.
Oh, wonderful.
We already have a steering committee of over 12 to 15 schools. We have a representative from the DOE. We have a representative from the charter schools. This is going to be open to all students. And here's what Global Issues Network does, which is why it's a network. Many times we think students need to travel outside their own area to do community service or go to another country and help in a developing country. The Global Issues Network looks at these 20 issues locally.
Oh, okay.
And we've gone through all 20, and they all are here in Hawaii in one degree or another. So it's this whole idea of acting locally with a global perspective.
Wow.
So we will have GIN students in GIN clubs in all of the schools that choose to participate with a faculty representative. During the rest of this year, we'll be doing training sessions for these students because in 2016-17 school year, the students themselves organized this conference.
Oh, so it's a student-organized conference.
It's a student empowerment.
Okay.
And unlike other student leadership initiatives, there's a couple of things. One is that we know that GIN kids take their work from high school to college with them in many cases. But the idea that they become an expert, we then put them in contact with experts from foundations, from NGOs, from entrepreneurs, businesses, government organizations, and then they collaborate, they interact. It's really an equal footing for the student. They sit at the table with adults and they debate and they suggest and they problem solve.
Wow, that would be great because even on, well, I guess I call it networking, but for younger students, that's not a concept they understand. But just to have students from different schools to get together to work on a project, that in itself would be hugely
Absolutely.
beneficial, I would imagine.
But they find the solution where they are, and then when they come together, they problem solve. And so how are you dealing with that problem on Maui? And then here's the beauty of it. Then we connect them with students just like themselves all around the world.
How would you do that?
We do that through video conferencing, and we're hoping to provide a video conferencing. I can't announce that yet, but we're hoping to provide a video conferencing service for all of our schools.
Wow.
A company that would like to work with us.
Okay.
And then we connect them with GIN students in Guatemala or in China or in somewhere in South America as well as Europe and Africa. And they go, all right, so we're working on fishery depletion here in Hawaii. How are you handling that in Peru? Do you have the same problem? Yes, we are the group from Peru that's working on the same problem. And it helps our students to realize that these issues are global and they can contribute to the solution without ever leaving Hawaii.
Right.
Because we have to deal with issues right in our backyard, first and foremost.
Of course.
And it creates this better appreciation for our own environment, our own economic and social health and environmental systems that are at play here in Hawaii.
And this is really a great opportunity because I've had chances to meet with high school junior senior students, and the level of their awareness of the global issues, whether it be economic or health, they're really up there. Because when I look at myself at their age, I don't know anything.
Exactly.
So when is that conference going to be?
Well, all being well, we're going to run a mini conference this spring, which will be a 2 to 3 day training session, because you're right, students need to be trained not just in the fact that they've identified a problem and even possibly a solution, but we will train them in networking, in public speaking, in collaboration, because when the students are running the conference, where sometimes they have challenges is not that they don't know the information, but they haven't been trained in some of those other softer skills
Right,
that are so
right.
important in how they communicate, how they organize each other, and how they facilitate a group.
Well, it's all learning experience for them.
And then the conference, we hope, will be held in the spring of next school year.
Okay.
And that by then, the gin clubs will be up and running in the schools. We will have identified the student leaders. We will have been able to communicate with them. And we're hoping that every island will have a piece of the puzzle and then come together. It's probably the first conference will be here on Oahu, but after that, we hope that the conferences will move from island to island, and that we can also entice international students to join our conferences.
Wow, you've got it all planned out. That's a lot of work ahead of you.
And I have another initiative that we're hoping to introduce. Where I've just come from in Asia, and also when I was in Europe, we had an educational conference for administrators.
Okay.
Right now, we put on the Schools of the Future conference, and our conference this year is going to be November 3rd and 4th at the conference center, and we're sold out in so many different ways. So
Okay.
it's very successful, the Schools of the Future conference. But what we don't have here in Hawaii is an educational conference for administrators, boards, directors, principals, admissions directors, business managers, development directors. But I've just come from a region in Asia where our administrators conference is sold out every year. I'm going to be attending the Asian conference in a couple of weeks in Bangkok to learn now, not as a participant, but as an organizer. And we hope again, spring of next year, that we can introduce the first HAIS Administrators Conference, which will also be open to participants from not just the independent schools, but charter and public schools as well.
That's incredible. So we don't have it here, but what about on the mainland? Do they have something similar for administrators?
Yes, probably the most well-known conference is the National Association of Independent Schools Conference, which is held annually. But that's for all across the entire country. But as far as having conferences just for administrators, I can't really answer that, but I know that we don't have it yet here in Hawaii.
Well, something to look forward to.
I hope so.
Any other initiatives that you would
You know,
like to talk
simple
about?
new initiatives. We're going to be offering HIS Student Awards. These will be awards for community service, student leadership that the school can offer either a graduating senior or an 11th grader who will come back as a senior the next year. And schools can give this award, and I hope to be able to attend lots of graduation ceremonies where I can hand that student our award.
That's wonderful.
We also want to recognize innovative teachers, so we'll be offering a teacher or staff award where we're seeing examples of innovation. And I have to tell you, this may be a group of islands, but I have seen some of the most progressive schools anywhere I've visited on the
Really?
world here in Hawaii.
Can you clarify that? What do you mean by being progressive?
Well, you know, we talk about the cliche around that is 21st century skills and 21st century education, where you're not teaching what we used to call the sage on the stage, the teacher, the sage
okay.
on
Yes,
the stage.
yes.
We now look at teaching as more of the guide on the side, and we believe that students should be out in front of their own learning. I know that that's not something I'm advocating that every school has to do, but I know that many schools are focusing on the fact that if students are their own teachers and teachers are the coach, that the student will learn more and become more passionate and motivated around what they're learning. And so, you know, it's maybe incorrect or a myth to think that just because we're remote that new programs and new initiatives in education aren't going to reach. We have had some of the best minds motivational speakers, consultants, workshop leaders come here to Hawaii. And in many of the schools I've visited, I'm seeing just incredible programs for students. And of course, there's opportunities here in the public schools and charter schools as well. But of course, my first and foremost focus is on our group of independent schools.
Well, I guess one last question before the end of the show. I mean, a year from now, what do you think, what do you hope to accomplish? I mean, you talked about all these conferences that you're going to do. Yeah, imagine a year from now, what would happen?
Well, I hope a year from now, you're asking me the question what I'm going to see a year from then.
Yes.
So 2 years from now, I hope that our Global Issues Network conference, our administrators conference, our teachers conference, and our ability to contribute the best we can to education and to students' future. I mean, we're a partner. We want to be a partner to schools in hoping that we can provide a successful future to our students. So a year from now, I hope we're running a successful administrators conference, student conference, and teachers conference. I hope that our student awards are going to phenomenal students, our teacher awards to great innovative teachers, and I hope that I have more people working at HAIS because we're more successful.
Right. Wow, Robert, you've got a lot on your plate. Really wonderful to talk to you. To learn all about these initiatives that you're developing at HAIS, and of course, also your Cambodia Future Foundation.
Thank you.
Hopefully you will grow that foundation, and perhaps we'll have you come back to check in with you in the near future.
That would be fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
My guest today is Robert Landau. He is the Executive Director of the Hawaii Association of Independent Schools. You've been watching ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Please do join us next week.